Hello, everybody. Welcome to Cartoon Season. I'm Tyler, and I'm talking about some anime today. I'm going to talk about Fruits Basket Season 2. I did previously talk about Season 1, so if you haven't checked that out, please do. But we're talking about Season 2 today. This is a great show. This is a fantastic show. I do want to touch on a few things. Let's touch on Toru and her breaking under the weight of just everything. You know, it's finally hitting her this season. Let's talk about Kyo's feelings for Toru, because that's getting there. Let's talk about Yuki facing his feelings, just in general, because that was a big moment for him. I really enjoyed that. And then we're gonna talk about the final season. Season 3 is the final season, so let's talk about some predictions and how we think this is gonna end. So yeah, that's everything I'm gonna talk about today. So let's start talking about it. So we're going to start with Toru breaking under the weight. This is mostly due to her mom, I feel like, and how that's affected her and how visibly this season, not saying we didn't see it last season, but this season we're really seeing her dealing with it and how much she needs other people. So she does cry when told that she should focus on her own future now that her mom is gone. Yeah, that's tough for her because her and her mom kind of planned everything when she was young, and that's kind of why she does what she does. Is she's kind of trying to fulfill the dream that her and her mom wanted. But that's tough for her to hear because now it's well, your mom is dead. So you don't have to do everything for her. Yes, you're still obviously allowed to love her and want to make her proud and all that stuff, but you don't have to live for her. If there's stuff you want to do that maybe wasn't in the cards a year ago, 2 years ago, that's okay. You're allowed to grow as a person without your mother. And that's tough for her to hear. She cries because it's conflicting in her own mind and her own feelings. She also gets a flash of her mom and stumbles in the street. That was random. I think that happens a few times, but I think the first time it really happens is again she's in the street and she just kind of gets a flash, like a flash memory in her brain of her mom, and it kind of throws her off. I mean, it mentally and physically throws her off. She does stumble a little bit and falls down, and that's just man, this is really getting to her. She really needs to really talk about this with somebody, because she has more touch and go, but I feel there are still things that she's hiding and feelings that she's suppressing. And I think it would be nice for her to sit down with Kyo and just be hey, this is I'm going through some stuff, and I feel she should, because again she is always, and I wrote this down too, she's always comforting everybody else. She's always trying to make everyone else feel good and make everyone else happy and good and everything. And it's you need to learn that everyone else can make you feel good as well. This is a two-way street. You don't always have to give up your own happiness for everyone else. It's not selfish to ask things of other people. She's determined to work after school instead of university. Again, that's kind of in her mom's memory. She wants to work so that she makes money and she's a productive member of society immediately, so that she doesn't ever have to worry about that, because that was a big thing with her mom, is that her mom didn't ever want her to worry about stuff like that. So again, it's not a bad idea. People do that, right? That's usually, especially in, I don't know if that's a Japan thing or if that's purely just an anime thing, but at least in anime, because I've never been to Japan, but I have watched anime. At least in anime, that's usually a big decision for people who graduate school, right? Where it's okay, what is your plan? Are you either going to get a job and work after school, or are you going to go to the university? And that's usually a big decision for people in anime when they're leaving school. It's you can do this or this. So yeah, it's not an unheard of decision, but it's is that what you want to do? Not that, is that what your mom wanted you to do? That's not what you and your mom talked about. Is that what you want to do with your life? You want to get a job as soon as you graduate. Because if it's not, then you shouldn't. And then she not only has the burden of her dead mother, but also never speaks about her father. Then also takes the responsibility of breaking the Soma curse. So again, this is another thing where, I already talked about her making everyone else, like comforting everyone else. On top of that, she's just collecting more burdens, because like her dead mother, that's a whole thing. Like that is enough for one person for their whole life to have to deal with like a dead parent, right? But then she has another parent who we don't believe is dead, but is just gone. Like we assume that maybe he ended up not being a good person. So that's why like her mom, that they weren't together when Tora was very young. We don't know. I mean, maybe in the third season we'll see him at some point, and maybe I don't know what that'll be. I don't really care honestly about the father at this point. But that's another thing too, right? Like you growing up with just your mom and your dad not really knowing him, maybe, like that's tough. That can leave a lasting effect on a child. And then on top of that, she takes the responsibility of breaking the curse. Like it is hers. She now has decided that she is going to be the one that has to break the curse, and if she doesn't, then she has failed as a human being. And that's just not fair for her, putting that on herself. Like, it isn't your responsibility. Like, it's a very nice thing to do, a very noble thing to do, but again, it's another burden. It's just another thing that she now has to, like, is weighing on her mind day in and day out. Like, every minute that she's not thinking of a new plan or something, like, she thinks she's falling behind. It's just not fair. She's just being unfair to herself, And then when she's confronted by Akito, she realizes Akito is their god, right? And that's not really something that, I don't know if that was obvious up until this point. I don't think I really fully understood that. Like, I more so, like, with Akito, I more so just assumed that Akito was like the leader of the Zodiac, but I figured she was still part of the Zodiac, but she really isn't. She's like the god of the Zodiac, right? So she is the god of everything, which is why everyone listens to her, not just because she's the most powerful member of the Zodiac, because she literally rules the Zodiac. like that's different. It's kind of like I don't know if this is a good analogy, but it's kind of like if you have a basketball team, right? Like it's one thing to look to the captain of the basketball team, or like the best player on the team or whatever. Like that's one thing. Like that makes sense. Like you're still teammates, so you don't really have to just mindlessly do everything that the captain says. But you're probably gonna take heed, onto his or her words, right? Because they're the captain, they're the best player, they're the captain for a reason, right? You want to listen to them because they probably know what's best for the team, right? You're gonna their words have a little more weight than probably your other teammates when it comes to team related things. That is different than you listening to like the coach, right? The coach is like, okay, I'm the coach, this is the game plan we're doing, like, come on. Like it's a similar dynamic, but it does have key differences where it's like the team and the coach are not peers, right? The team and then the team's captain, who is part of the team, who plays in the games and matches and whatever, they are peers. One is the captain, so you probably listen to him a little bit more. You probably, care about what they say a little more just because of the captain. But you are all still peers on the team. The coach, not a peer. The coach is the coach, right? So that's kind of, I don't know if it's a great analogy, but that is kind of what's going on here, where it's like Akito is not just part of the Zodiac. They are a god, right? They are their god, so that kind of crushes Toru even more, because it's like, oh, cool. So that's what I have to deal with now. That's what I have to somehow make the subjects defy their god. Cool, awesome, yep. Man, can't wait for season 3. Can't wait for me to do more stuff. But yeah, so again, that is all kind of the crushing weight that Toru has on her, and is also putting on herself. It's just not fair. And I think that there's a lot of breakage in this season, and I really hope that season 3 has more coming together, more lifting up, and more like getting deep into each other's feelings and psyches, and even more than it's been so far. And hopefully we can all come together and like rebuild, right? But we will see, because now I want to talk about Kyo's feelings for Toru. Not super obvious in season 1. I think there was hints here and there, but season 2 was like, okay, yeah, this is what's going on. And so he's clearly nicer to her than anyone else. I mean, he's really the only one that doesn't really give her like lip, whenever anyone speaks to him. Like with her it's like, okay, yeah. He's a calmer person than he ever was, even in season 1. Again, in season 1 he was kind of flying off at the handle, kind of doing his own thing. Always ready to fight, always ready to combat what anyone says. But in season 2, he's a little calmer. He's a little less eager to get into fights with people. He's a little less eager to get in arguments and just doing something just because it's what people don't want him to do. So it's nice. You can definitely tell that is a product of Toru. He accepts his role in the play, which is something that he would have never done without Toru there. But Toru being like so excited for the play and so excited that Kyo was part of it and wanting to be the best, want to have a good time, you know what I mean? Like this, it's just more like kind of wearing him down in a good way, wearing him down of like, hey, it's okay to be nice, it's okay to have friends and be nice to people and help other people, and it's okay to be a part of things. He also fights for her against Akito. He's one of the ones that openly kind of tries to defy Akito, and it's for Toru. Like he speaks out, he acts out against Akito for Toru, which is again Toru's effect. Again, her whole plan, like we just talked about, is that she now has to somehow make the subjects defy their god, and it's working slowly but surely. It is working. He has incredible intuition when it comes to her. Yeah, I mean, you can tell that he definitely watches her more than anyone else. Might be kind of in a creepy way, but it still works, but he does have this intuition where it's like a lot of times he says what she's thinking, or he knows where she's going to be or what she's going to do. Again, probably from watching her a little more, because he does have feelings for her, but also because their bond has grown over the season or two, so it is nice. It's that thing where it's like, oh, when you're in love, you finish each other's sentences. That's not really what happens here, but the notion is here. And then he's trying to make the most of his time with her because he knows that he's going to be locked up after graduation. Right, yeah, I'm still kind of fuzzy on that, because that was something that was introduced like really quickly. But apparently he's kind of made this deal with Akito that like he just wants to go to school basically. But then after school, I think like I feel like it's like there's like a stipulation, right, where like he has to prove something by the end of graduation. If he doesn't, he is given Akito, like he's like, whatever, you can lock me up, you can lock me in a cage or whatever. I forget exactly what it is though, but I think it's something like he has to be accepted or something, or like I think it's something to do with Yuki. I'm pretty sure it's something to do with Yuki, like he has to be accepted by Yuki, or he has to be better than Yuki, right? And then he has to fully believe it, and it has to be, you know what I mean, like I am better than Yuki, I have beat Yuki basically, right? And knowing everything that's going to happen, not only physically but also just as a human, Yuki is better, right? And just like generally, so like he knows that he's going to be locked up after all of this, so he's just like, I'm trying to do everything I can, I'm trying to be nice to her, I'm trying to have fun with her, I'm trying to all that stuff before graduation, because then I'm never going to see her again. which sucks. It's very, very sad. But yeah, it just goes to show again, like his feelings and how much he's opening up, and again, the effect Toru has on people. Toru is the catalyst for this entire show, and it continues to be true time and time again. But speaking of Yuki, we're gonna talk about Yuki facing his feelings. He admits that he sees Toru as more of a motherly figure, which is kind of strange, a little strange in the moment. But if you start to take that fact and sprinkle it over all we've seen so far, it makes sense. One, I think it's definitely going to be a relief for Toru that he's not like fighting Yuki I messed all that up. I think it's definitely going to be a relief for Kyo that he's not having to duel Yuki over Toru. Right? Because I definitely think earlier on in the season you might think that there might be a little something there between Yuki and Toru, and I think that's intentional, right? But now that it's come out that, he doesn't really see her like that, right? He just sees her as kind of like a motherly figure, kind of like, because, she kind of is. Like, she takes care of everybody in the house. She cooks, she cleans, she, emotional support. She always, and there's like missions, that she always wants to tag along. So it's not like off base, not like the craziest thing he's ever said. But then on top of that, the reason why that's so easy for his mind to like fit that role into that slot is because he doesn't really have a motherly figure. Like Akito is really supposed to be that. And ever since his like real mom gave him up. But Akito has always been very toxic, And so it's like, he's never really had somebody like that truly cares for him, in that specific, type of dynamic. But now we got Toru there, and Toru kind of fits that bill perfectly. And then for a time, he suppressed those feelings and started to flirt with her just like any other teen would. Yeah, because he was confused. That's what happened, especially in his situation. That situation is definitely not a situation that normal teens deal with, even if we take away all the weird magic zodiac stuff that doesn't happen in real life, even that isn't really something that most people deal with. So he wasn't really sure how to act and how to do that in a way that would make sense and to not drive people away. So he's just like, yeah, so instead, like, I didn't really know how to harness those feelings. I didn't really know what those feelings were even, like, all the way. So they may have just felt like, again, what other teens feel towards another person is that, I'm attracted to them, I'm infatuated with them in that way, so I'm going to try to be romantic and flirt and all that stuff. But once he's really come to terms with it, and like he knows, he's now able to recognize what those feelings are, he's like, that's not what type of feelings I had towards her. It was this other thing. So again, I really like him talking through that. And again, we now have this knowledge. We can go back and reminisce about the earlier season and be like, oh yeah, everything sort of starts to fit into place, and it makes sense as to why he would say certain things or act a certain way towards her in certain scenes. And then finally, what it is that he stands up to Akito, forgives her, says he's done blaming other people for his life, which is just like, oh yes, very powerful scene. Akito does not like it, but for him to stand up to her and say, I forgive you, oof, not what Akito wanted to hear at all, because Akito doesn't want Yuki to break away from her like that. He is hers, and she needs him to know that. So the fact that Yuki's like, I forgive you, I like you said, like I'm done blaming other people for my, for my life, right? It's my life. I make decisions, all that stuff. So the fact that he's becoming independent from Akito, literally the worst thing that Akito could ever hear. Awful for her, and she like slaps him and whatever and blah blah blah. But like that, like, he just shed his skin basically, where he's like, yeah, I'm a new me, and no one's gonna take this away from me. Love it, absolutely incredible. It's such good character development, you know what I mean? But I'm sure we'll see more of that in the final season. Speaking of the final season, let's talk about it just a little bit. So, the final season, 13 episodes, right? Now, the reason I point that out is purely because season 1 and season 2 were each 25 episodes. They were long seasons. They were both 2 cours. So if we just think about that for a minute, 13 episodes, it's going to be jam-packed. It's got to be. Not saying that they're fitting 25 episodes worth of content into 13 episodes. That would be insane. That would be impossible. And that would also probably not make for a good season because it'd feel rushed. But that does excite me a little bit because it's only 13 episodes, so it's like we can see the finish line. You know what I mean? Like it's getting here. It's here. We're doing this. A big revelation is that Akito's a girl. It's like a big thing. Kind of ambiguous the whole season. Like me myself when I was looking at it, I was like kind of back and forth in my mind of like, is Akito? Because like they're kind of saying he, but then like the way he acts is kind of like stereotypically like feminine and anime. Just like okay, but then like it's so flip floppy, and like you kind of just accept that Akito's a male character because of the usage of he and all that stuff. And also probably a little bit of sexism because it's like, oh well, Akito is the leader of the zodiacs and the leader has to be a man. But Akito being a girl is like a big thing at the end. It's like a big reveal. They spend a lot of time revealing it, all that stuff. So we'll see how that factors into everything. I'm not sure like how big of a difference that makes, but they definitely made it a point to be like, hey, guess what? Y'all didn't know. Kureno broke the curse, apparently. That was a big thing. That was a huge revelation for Toru especially, where it's like, wait. You broke the curse. I've been trying. That's all I want in my life. How did you do it? And it's not really, again, like Kureno can't really give her the answer because he's like, I don't really know. Like it's not something that I just did. It's something that just kind of happened. But it is a little nugget of information, a little bit of, there's just proof essentially that it can be done. Because this whole time it was like, this is what we want to happen. We don't know if it's possible. Like, is it possible to break this curse? We don't know. No one's ever done it. Except Kureno. So, we'll see where that goes. Akito is losing her grip on the Zodiac members. Very tough. Very tough. You can clearly see it with everyone. They're caring less and less. They don't really want to listen too much to Akito. They want to just live their own lives. They want to do their own thing. Obviously that's way more prevalent for people like Kyo and Kyo and Yuki. But even other characters too are kind of coming around. It is mainly because of Toru, but also their own lives too. Like we have stuff that we want to do. We don't want to just, like our entire purpose in life, we don't want it to be just being a zodiac. Like we want to be individuals. And then just Kyo and Toru. I can't wait to see where that goes. I can't wait to see how that develops. If it ever becomes like a full public thing, that would be great. And I love romance in anime. You know what I'm saying? So like, let's go. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Just a few minor thoughts on the final season because it's the final season. Like I imagine Toru's gonna win. I feel like that would be a crazy ending for Toru to lose. Like this whole time we have all this hope and all this build up for Toru to lose. Like I definitely feel like he will or she will win. But I don't really know how, and I'm excited to see it. So yeah, that is pretty much the end. Please let me know what you thought of the season. Let me know what any of your season 3 final season predictions are. One thing I will say is I believe there's also a movie that's come out after the final season. I don't know if it's a continuation of the story or if it's a prequel, so I'm not sure. Obviously either way I'm probably going to watch it and talk about it, but just wanted to point that out as well. Yeah, please go listen to other cartoon season episodes either on the Tiger T channel or on your favorite podcast platform of choice. And I do other content as well. I do some reactions to different animations, and I also do some gameplay. So go check that out. That's always a good time. And yeah, until next time, watch more cartoons, watch more anime, and watch the 3rd season of Fruits Basket, and let me know what other stuff you want me to talk about.